Hey everyone, Data here, and welcome back to our next NHL 22 career simulation. Today, taking on the career of the third overall pick in the 2022 draft, Logan Cooley. Cooley was drafted by the Coyotes over Shane Wright, mind you. Many people surprised by that, and I do see him as a cornerstone-type prospect. He's put up some great numbers in his career so far, most notably the 75 points in 51 games with the U.S. national U18 team. He is an elite talent who has been described as a two-way monster and future Selke candidate. He's able to play 5-on-5, power play, penalty kill. That potentially puts him in an elite group of NHL centermen who are able to boast those abilities. Great hands, playmaking ability, explosive skating. And even though he lacks size at 5'10", he is smart and shifty and has great hockey IQ to get around that. A great mentality and exactly what the Coyotes need in Arizona. So Logan Cooley, a very popular suggestion for a career simulation in the comments. We've done Slavkovsky, Nemec, and Wright, so Cooley will round out the top four. The game has him in the IIHF mode as a 69 overall, but that would take probably like 3-4 years to make the NHL, so I decided to boost him to a 77, high elite potential instead of medium elite, because I really do think that he could be a high elite prospect. Great puck skills, really strong skating, weaker physical, but good defensive awareness as well. He may not be a shot blocker, but he has an active stick, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does with the Coyotes. It's going to be an exciting simulation, so thank you to those who suggested Cooley. Just goes to show that if a suggestion gets enough steam behind it, we will get it done. But unfortunately, I cannot do all of them because they do take a lot of time to simulate. So as always, if you enjoyed the simulation, be sure to leave a like, leave a comment with your thoughts on it as well, and do consider subscribing, as you'll be made aware of all of these career simulations, our NHL 22 franchise mode, and much more. So if you enjoy this, I'm sure you'd enjoy much of everything else that goes on in the channel. So take a second, check it out, and we'd love to have you join the team. As always, we're simulating the 20-whatever years of Cooley's career following him. Injuries are turned on. Everything with management of all 32 AI teams are set to automatic. And we're ready to get this sim underway. Will Cooley be the savior of Arizona and be the phoenix rising from the ashes? Will he move on to bigger and potentially better things? Maybe even kind of just plateaus as a second-line type centerman? Who knows? Let's get into the career of Logan Cooley, and it all begins at the 2022 NHL Entry Draft. And with the third overall selection in the draft, the Coyotes go ahead and select Logan Cooley, the 77 overall two-way high elite prospect out of the U.S. system. He has grown to 5'11" over the course of the season. I hate how in the game prospects often grow, a couple inches. It doesn't actually stay what they actually are, but I guess it makes sense. He's 18 years of age. His bones aren't fused together just yet, so I could see that having some roots in realism. I don't believe any of his attributes have changed over the course of the season, so we'll see if there's any changes in the 2022 offseason headed into 22-23, the year that he's committed to the University of Minnesota. But of course, as we said, that doesn't exist here, so he will likely be with the Tucson Roadrunners down in the AHL. Of course, as always, we can't make the entire league as it was actually drafted, with Wright over here to the Islanders, Slavkovsky to the Blue Jackets. But we are doing our best, and of course, just following the career of Logan Cooley himself. So headed into year number 1, we'll see where he's placed. So headed into year number 1, Logan Cooley is with the Tucson Roadrunners down in the AHL. Brad Lambert was actually the other first-round pick from the Coyotes with the Canadian selection there at 13th overall. So unfortunately, we can't get Connor Geekie on the team. It took me literally about 3 hours just to get Cooley on the Coyotes with the different draft permutations that were happening. So we're going to just have to accept that Logan Cooley and Brad Lambert are going to be here instead of Cooley and Geekie. Cooley is still a 77 overall, listed as a minor scoring forward. It doesn't look like any of his attributes have changed over the offseason, so that makes perfect sense. Imagine that he's in the University of Minnesota, but playing a little bit of part-time, I guess, with the Tucson Roadrunners. With Carcone on his left and O'Brien on his right, let's see how Logan Cooley does in his first season in the Coyotes organization. In year number 1 for Logan Cooley in Tucson/University of Minnesota land, the Roadrunners made the postseason, finishing 16th in the American Hockey League with a record of 40, 29, and 13. Cooley played in all 82 games with the Roadrunners and scored 24 goals and 35 assists for 59 points. He was a -6 and had 10 power play points as he averaged about 20.5 minutes per night. In the postseason, the Roadrunners were promptly swept out of the first round by the Ontario Reign, who went on to win the Calder Cup. In those 3 games, Cooley scored 1 assist, took 9 shots, and averaged over 21 minutes of ice time per night. After year number 1, Cooley grows to a 78 overall. He's now 6 feet tall. Doesn't make sense. I tried making him 5'9", so he'd grow to 5'10" or 5'11". He never grew. I make him 5'10". In 1 year, he grows to 6 foot. So I've tried experimenting. The EA system is just totally wacko. So I'm sorry that it can't be more controlled than that. But he is a 78 overall, now listed as a depth forward. His offensive awareness is up to 85. His defensive awareness up to 86. I'll be curious to see how much more growth he gets in the 2023 offseason and whether or not he can crack the NHL lineup for year number 2. Year number 2, and Logan Cooley is now truly with the Roadrunners. I could see this being a realistic trajectory in the real world. 1 year with the University of Minnesota, 1 year with the Roadrunners before finally making his NHL debut in 2024-25. But for right now, he is a 79 overall, playing first-line minutes with Dylan Gunter and Brad Lambert, likely the future of Arizona, especially Gunter on his left. Still the high elite potential, listed as a depth forward. The awareness has continued to grow with defensive at 87 and offensive at 86, so very nice to see that. Not much else changing attribute-wise for Cooley, who's now also 195 pounds, so he's been working hard, he's growing, he's eating his supplements, his vitamins, he's now 6 feet tall, so hey, let's hope for a strong season with the Roadrunners, and that would be a great audition for making the Coyotes in year number 3. Nothing special from the Roadrunners in year number 2 as they finished 23rd in the AHL with a record of 37, 36, and 9. Cooley didn't have a great season as only scored 15 goals and 32 assists for 47 points in 78 games, and even plus minus and 7 power play points while averaging over 21 minutes of ice time a night. Nonetheless, he grows to an 81 overall and is now listed as a third checking line forward, so he should absolutely be poised to make the NHL in 2024. 3.5-star puck skills, 4-star defense, which is great to see because that is the strongest part of his game. 88 defensive awareness, 86 stick checking. Physicals coming along slowly, the shooting going up slightly. So I'm excited to see what kind of growth he'll have over the offseason headed into his rookie NHL season, as well as the production he'll be able to have when surrounded by NHL caliber players. Year number 3, Cooley's first in the NHL, and he is playing first-line center on the Arizona Coyotes. It's been a long time coming, but I'm glad to see him have such a prominent role so early. Clayton Keller on his left, Dylan Gunter on his right. Love to see that. Brad Lambert, second-line center, and other names you can check out if you're interested, as well as the defensive core. Pretty crazy. Mike Riley, not Morgan Riley, and goalies Nedeljkovic and Vejmelka. Wow. So, of course, the world's going to be topsy-turvy, but we're just following Logan Cooley, who is now an 82 overall and listed as a third-line checking forward, still the same as the end of last season. Puck skills all between 86 and 87, 88 offensive awareness, and 4-star defense, which is great to see. The shooting has been coming along quite slowly, still stuck at 3 stars, so hopefully that will develop a little bit more, especially with first-line minutes, power play minutes, and much, much more. So let's see how Cooley's rookie season goes in 2024-25. In year number 3, the first of the Logan Cooley era, the Coyotes finish 4th last in the NHL, a 29th place finish with a record of 34, 41, and 7. Despite the record, Logan Cooley's rookie season was definitely a successful one as he played in 79 out of 82 games, scoring 19 goals and 33 assists for 52 points. Definitely one of the top rookie scorers, and would have gotten him some Calder votes. Benson on the Predators with 56 points won the Calder as best rookie, so Cooley, I would think, at least got a nomination. He was a -5 and had 11 power play points while averaging about 20.5 minutes of ice time per night in his rookie season as a first-line centerman. I like that very much. With that first season under his belt, he grows to an 86 overall. Extremely impressive. 5-star puck skills, 4.5-star defense, everything else coming along very nicely. So I'm excited to see what his sophomore season will have in store. All right, year number 2, Logan Cooley's sophomore season, and he has grown to an 88 overall at the age of 21. Gunter at an 82 on his left, Keller at an 87 on his right. The top 6 is very solid. Even the top 9, everyone between 82 and 87 overall, even a strong 4th line. So the Coyotes are looking poised for a little bit of a run here, perhaps. The defense, also great, and the goaltending, yes, I'll take it. Maybe we'll see the postseason here in Arizona in year number 4. Cooley's second in the NHL, now listed as a second-line forward, but once again playing first-line minutes. 90 offensive awareness, 5-star defense with a 91 defensive awareness, 93 stick checking. He is aggressive out there with 92 aggressiveness. It's just the shooting has to come along a little bit more, but he's a great passer, very strong two-way game. Let's see what happens this year in Arizona. In year number 4, the Coyotes finished 12th in the NHL, a very impressive record as they went 42-31-9 to return to the postseason for the first time since 2020 and just the second time since 2012. Logan Cooley had a great season as a first-line centerman on the Coyotes, playing in 81 out of 82 games and scoring 23 goals and 45 assists for 68 points, career highs all around obviously. He was a plus 15 and had 11 power play points while playing almost 22 minutes a night. Unfortunately, in the postseason, the Coyotes dropped in 6 games in round number 1 to the Blackhawks, who would go on to get swept by the eventual Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche. A little bit of a lack of playoff experience in recent history probably played a role. But nonetheless, in the first postseason of his NHL career, Logan Cooley went point per game with 3 goals and 3 assists. He was a -3 and ended up logging almost 25 minutes a night of ice time as he remains at an 88 overall headed into the offseason and the final year of his entry-level deal. 5-star puck skills, 5-star defense, 5-star skating as the rest of his attributes continue to catch up. Looking forward to some continued growth for Cooley and the team as a whole. Headed into year number 5, the final Logan Cooley's entry-level contract. He is still first-line center in Arizona with a very strong top 9 forward core. Barrett Hayton, who some of you may be interested in, he is the 5th overall pick in 2018. He's an 85 overall. Gunter on his left, Keller on his right. Defensive core looking like this, and goalie still Nedeljkovic starting if you're curious in what's going on in Arizona. 88 overall for Cooley, still with the 5-star puck skills, defense, and skating. He's known to take a penalty or two in the real world if you look at his penalty minutes, so that's why his discipline's still at 82, but 90 aggressiveness. He's a spunky guy, especially at 5'10" in the real world. Now that he's grown to 6 foot, again, could be a possibility in the real world. Regardless, coming off of a very good 68-point sophomore season, let's see what he can do with the Coyotes, who are trending upward. In year number 5, the Coyotes returned to the postseason with a slightly better placement than last year, this year finishing 11th in the league with a record of 43-30-9. Logan Cooley put up similar numbers to last season as he scored 23 goals and 42 assists for 65 points in 79 games. He was a -1 and scored 12 power play points through those 79 games, averaging about 21.5 minutes of ice time per night. In the postseason, however, it was once again a first-round exit for the Coyotes, this time in a funny twist of fate to the Winnipeg Jets, who took them down in 5. The Jets would go on to lose to the Canucks in the Western Conference Final, who lost to the Maple Leafs for the 2027 Cup. In those 5 games, Cooley only registered 3 assists and was a -3, some tough times there. He was logging over 21 minutes a night. Not the greatest offensive performance from him, but he does grow to a 90 overall at the end of his entry-level deal. He will need a contract headed into next season, so it'll be interesting to see if the Coyotes go for a bridge path or for a big boy extension path. He'll definitely be asking for big dollars as he now has 5-star puck skills, defense, skating, and senses. 4-star physical, still only 3.5 shooting, but he's scoring 20+ goals a season. The defense is really, really impressive. But I'm really curious about his penalty minutes because 83 discipline, it's not like it's in the 60s or something. He had 74 penalty minutes this season, which is kind of on par for what he does in the present day, where his penalty minutes usually line up around with the number of games played. But maybe that's something that will come with time as he matures. 90 overall headed into the 2027 off season. I will be very curious to see what kind of contract gets hammered out. Headed into year number 6, the 4th of Logan Cooley's NHL career, he has signed a bridge deal with the Coyotes, which will pay him just shy of $31 million over the next 3 years, an AAV of $10.325 million. That will bring him to UFA status at the end of that contract, so Cooley and his agent not, playing it pretty close to the chest, not committing to Arizona long-term just yet, but a few good seasons may want to make him sign on. Gunter on his left, Anthony Mantha on his right. Nazem Kadri joining the top 6 here in Arizona. After back-to-back playoff appearances, I would not be surprised if they make it once again. Cooley at a 90 overall still maintains the 5-star puck skills, senses, defense, and skating. Shooting at 3.5 and physical at 4. Not much we can do about that, but he continues to be an elite playmaking two-way forward. And I'll be very interested to see what Cooley can do when he's making over $10 million a season headed into 2027-28. I gotta say, in year number 6, I'm very shocked as the Coyotes finish 4th last in the NHL, 29th place with a record of 32-44-6. Seemingly a very unlucky record as they scored almost 3 goals per game, well above all the teams that are around them, and allowed 3.38, not great, but par for the course for the teams around them as well. Probably a lot of 1-goal losses. As we can see, offense was not an issue for everyone as Logan Cooley set new career highs in goals, assists, points, and even games played, as in his first full 82-game season and the first of his 10+ million AAV extension, he scores 26 goals and 61 assists for a total of 87 points. He was at -6, which isn't great. He dialed back the penalty minutes, with only 50 this season, 20 penalty minutes, an average ice time of 23.5 minutes per night. A great year from Logan Cooley, who grows to a 92 overall. Throw in a Frank J. Selke trophy as the best defensive forward in the NHL in just his 4th season, and you have quite the year for Cooley here in 2027-28, also breaking up Ryan O'Reilly's streak of like 4 or 5 in a row. He was touted as a future Selke candidate, and he went out and won his first one in just 4 seasons. 95 defensive awareness, 96 stick checking, all that great stuff. Physical now at 4.5 stars, despite being just 6 foot. Nothing crazy, but he throws his body around. He's strong. He's aggressive. Great offensive awareness at 94. 94 puck control. 93 for the rest of the puck skills. The shooting still has not progressed from 3.5 stars, but I think that's all right when he is a masterful playmaker and handler of the puck. A great defensive force. A Selke Trophy winner. 87-point year. Despite it not being a great year for the team as a whole, Cooley progressed well, and it should continue to help the team headed into 2028-29. Year number 7, and Logan Cooley maintains his 92 overall status. 85 Gunter on his left, 88 Lambert on his right. John Tavares has joined the fold as well. This should hopefully be a team that gets back to the postseason after an extremely disappointing year number 7. All of the attributes still look very tantalizing. That 94 offensive awareness and 95 defensive awareness. Could Logan Cooley go on a little Selke streak of his own? Can he maintain the point per game plus status? All of that is yet to be seen headed into 2028-29. Oof, the Coyotes were extremely unlucky in year number 7 as they were just on the outside looking in with a 17th place finish in the NHL. 90 points, just 2 behind Dallas for the last spot in the West. A record of 41, 33, and 8. But it was another great year from Logan Cooley as he set a new career high in assists with 63. It was a 20-goal, 63-assist season for 83 points across 82 games. He was a -8 and had 20 power play points while logging over 23.5 minutes of ice time per night. A great season from the two-way forward, but unfortunately Ryan O'Reilly back to his winning ways in the Selke Trophy category, but I'm sure Cooley at least got some votes out there as he maintains his 92 overall status and will be headed into the final year of that 3-year bridge contract. After a couple of great seasons in which his team missed the playoffs, I'm sure Cooley's having some thoughts about long-term in Arizona, but we'll have to see what happens headed into 2029-30. The attributes are still amazing as always. The shooting's still stuck at 3.5 stars, but hey, I think if he's able to continue doing point per game plus seasons, he'll be just all right with that. Headed into year number 8, the final of Cooley's 3-year bridge, 92 overall as the first-line center on the Coyotes. Dylan Gunter on his right. This guy, Joey Bell, on his left. 5th overall pick in 2028. Won the Calder Trophy last year. Call him Joey Bello. Great to see that. Brad Lambert still out here. John Tavares still out here. The forward core is still pretty solid in Arizona. Defense leaves a little bit to be desired, and goaltending is okay with Hugo Allenfeld at an 85 overall. So after a couple years of missing the postseason, which have coincidentally been the best 2 years of Cooley's career, I hope that everything can come together for this 3rd season of the contract being a postseason year, especially if the Coyotes want to convince Cooley to sign on long term. All the attributes look the same aside from the shooting, which has gone up slightly. I believe slap shot accuracy and wrist shot accuracy was 84, 85. Now it's 85, 86. So slow baby steps in the shooting category, but everything else still off the charts with the 5-star puck skills, defense, senses, and skating. Year number 8 in 2029-30. Let's hit it. In year number 8, with a slightly weaker Western Conference, the Coyotes squeak back into the postseason with a 21st place finish in the NHL, a record of 41, 38, and 3, so still a 40-plus win season, but a weird placement to make the postseason so low in the standings comparatively. Logan Cooley was on pace to go point per game once again, but only played in 65 games, presumably due to injury. In those 65 games, he scored 65 points with 14 goals and 51 assists, but was a -24 along the way. 18 power play points and averaging about 23 minutes of ice time per night. Playing with that power forward with 5-star shooting, Joey Bell definitely helps the playmaking ability, but a bit of a weird plus-minus there for sure. In the postseason, the Coyotes finally made it out of the first round as they swept through the Dallas Stars, but then unfortunately dropped in 7 to the Winnipeg Jets. Once again, another twist of fate. The Jets would go on to lose to the Kings, who lost to the Senators, who won the 2030 Cup, but great to see the Coyotes at least make it out of the first round. In those 11 games, the Coyotes definitely made things interesting as they pushed the Jets to 7, and Cooley scored 12 points in those 11 games, 4 goals and 8 assists, a -2, and ice time was looking like over almost close to 24.5 minutes per night. Also, a surprise Selke Trophy win for Logan Cooley, who only played in 65 games. It's the second of his career and the second in the last 3 years that he wins. It's just been him and O'Reilly winning it back and forth pretty much. Really surprising to see, and hats off to him. Especially being a minus player in the regular season and the postseason, I'm really shocked actually that he won the Selke. But hey, another great point per game plus season from Logan Cooley. Make that 3 in a row since he signed that bridge deal, and he is now a UFA headed into the 2030 offseason. He maintains his 92 overall status, 96 defensive awareness, 91 on faceoffs, 96 stick checking, 5 stars everywhere that you look, still 3.5 shooting and 4.5 physical. He is a monster out there, and he is going to demand big money. But the Coyotes have a lot of talent on the team now, so it may not be easy to re-sign him. We'll see what fate has in store headed into year number 9. In year number 9, the 2-time Selke winner Logan Cooley goes to unrestricted free agency and signs with the Boston Bruins. A massive deal which pays him $14.445 million per year over the next 7 seasons, giving him a total of over $101 million. The 26-year-old is laughing all the way to the bank. Unfortunate that he hasn't stayed with the Coyotes. He ends up leaving Arizona after 6 full NHL seasons, 420 points in 468 games, 2 Selke trophies, and 22 playoff games, 2 first-round exits, 1 second-round exit. Unfortunate that things did not work out with him in Arizona. They had other money committed elsewhere and could not afford the over $100 million contract that he was asking for. So here he is in Boston, presumably picking up the mantle from Patrice Bergeron as the best defensive forward in the NHL. He's closer to home as well. Boston closer to Pittsburgh than Arizona is. Very young top 6 of all generated prospects with Cooley. The third line's Tunica, Perfetti, and Radish. I'm not sure why that's the third line. Tyson Jost as an 87 on the fourth line. I'm sure that'll even out over time, but for the moment a bit odd. The defense looks like this in Boston, pretty much led by Eric Brandstrom, and the goaltending is Jussi Saros at 35 years of age at the moment. No big healthy scratches there. So a big change of scenery for Logan Cooley. 26 years of age, 92 overall, now 5-star puck skills, senses, defense, skating, and physical. It's just the shooting still stuck at 3.5 stars, but he is an aggressive little guy. Not so little anymore. He grew those 2 inches to 6 foot, but he is a spunky fellow with 91 strength, 95 aggressiveness, 93 acceleration, 97 defensive awareness. I'm very excited to see how things go for Cooley here in the Eastern Conference headed into 2030-31. In year number 9, Cooley's first with the Bruins. Boston finished 9th in the NHL, coincidentally just below the Coyotes in 8th with a record of 46-30-6. Cooley's 7th year in the NHL gave him a cool 70 points as he played in 81 out of 82 games. He registered 24 goals and 46 assists, a plus player at plus 13, at least there's that, and he had 8 power play points to go along with the 22 minutes of ice time that he had per night. With Logan Cooley on the Bruins, Boston went all the way to the Stanley Cup final in 2031, but were unfortunately swept out by the Seattle Kraken, who coincidentally also just beat the Coyotes in the Western Conference final in 6 games, and what could have been if he stayed with Arizona, but nonetheless, decisions have been made. The Bruins took down the Penguins in 6, Hurricanes in 5, Florida in 7, and then of course, as mentioned, lost in 4 to Seattle. In those 22 games, which was the furthest playoff push of Cooley's career by far, he scored 4 goals and 13 assists for 17 points in 22 games. He was averaging lots of ice time, over 22 minutes per night, close to 22 and a half. And after that season, actually sees himself regress to 91 overall. A bit odd there. Yes, his point production was a bit less than point per game, but he was the first line center on a team that went all the way to the Stanley Cup final. Back in the penalty minutes as well, 74, now with the big bad Bruins. I don't know don't know. But his physical does drop from 5 stars to 4 stars. That's something to keep in mind. Everything else still at 5 stars and shooting still at 3.5. Headed into 2031-32. Coming off of that taste of the Stanley Cup final, what will Cooley and the Bruins do headed into year number 10? Year number 10, and Logan Cooley is centering the top line here in Boston. An 89 overall on his left and 88 on his right. Neither of them are snipers, but that should help the overall level and scoring of his line. After a bit of a down year by his standards, still 91 overall, the physical still remaining at 4 stars after being 5 stars last season. Shooting 3.5, everything else at 5. Not much else to say. He's a strong skater, still great defensively. He'd love to get back into the Selke conversation, especially as he's picked up the mantle from Patrice Bergeron here in Boston. The Bruins are still feeling that Stanley Cup final sweep from last season, so hopefully there is a fire lit underneath them, and 2031-32 will be another strong campaign. In year number 10, Logan Cooley was part of his first ever President's Trophy winning team as the Bruins finished atop the NHL with 113 points, a record of 53, 22, and 7. I'm sure Cooley is loving his time in Boston. It wasn't another point per game season, but 74 and 82 is pretty solid. 24 goals and 50 assists for Cooley. This guy Beach had 55 goals, so I'm sure that's where a lot of the goal scoring came from. Cooley was a plus 23, scored 18 power play points, and averaged over 22 minutes a night. And in the postseason for the second consecutive year, the Bruins made the Stanley Cup final, but would go on to lose in 6 games to the Edmonton Oilers. Last year they got swept out of the final. This year they lost in 6. A slight improvement. Still unfortunate to lose the Stanley Cup once again, especially this year as President's Trophy winners. They beat the Sabres in 5, Senators in 6, Devils in 6, but then dropped in 6. Cooley played in all 23 games and had 6 goals and 12 assists for 18 points, a -1 and averaging almost 23 minutes of ice time per night. No Selke this season, but another great year from Cooley as he once again found himself in the Stanley Cup final. A President's Trophy added to his resume as well. He maintains the 91 overall status that he had at the beginning of the season, and none of his attributes have changed enough to change any of the star ratings. 3.5 shooting, 4-star physical, and 5-star everything else. So I'll be curious to see what the Bruins do over the offseason. Coming off of a President's Trophy and back-to-back Stanley Cup final appearances, they are just on the cusp, but are missing something. Year number 11, and Logan Cooley, of course, still the first-line center in Boston. Joakim Kemmel, also a prospect from the 2022 draft class, on his left. This guy Chiodo on his right. The top 6 and top 9 as a whole, even the forward core overall, is very solid here in Boston. The defense is passable for sure, and the goaltending has taken a hit with Jussi Saros leaving. So we'll see if the Bruins can continue their dominance coming off of a President's Trophy and back-to-back Stanley Cup final appearances. Still the same attributes for Cooley with the strong defensive and offensive awareness among others. So let's see what his 3rd season in Boston has in store. Very surprising in year number 11, as after winning the President's Trophy in year number 10, the Bruins finished 27th in the NHL in year number 11, 6th last in the league with a record of 33, 41, and 8. Cooley didn't have the craziest offensive output as he scored 65 points in 80 games, 23 goals and 42 assists. That would put him on the slowest scoring pace of his career since his rookie season. Not the lowest scoring season, but the slowest pace. He was a -9 and had 7 power play points to go along with 22 minutes of ice time per night. But despite all of that, Cooley captured his 3rd career Selke trophy and his first as a Boston Bruin. Great to see him following in Patrice Bergeron's footsteps. That's exactly why they got him, and it's great to see him finally get one. It's a bit difficult to figure out how a player wins the Selke. Usually it's the highest scoring two-way forward, but it also has to do with the giveaways and takeaways. As this year, Cooley had 127 takeaways to 60 giveaways. The other years that he won the Selke, he had 131 takeaways versus 47 giveaways, and 156 takeaways versus 54 takeaways. So those high totals are the years in which he won Selke trophies. Pair that with the offense, and that's what's given him the Selkies. He'd also been great on the faceoff dot. This was the 2nd best faceoff percentage of his career at 58.31. So he's been great on the dot, very strong defensively. He threw 169 hits as well. A great season despite not being one of his better offensive outputs. He remains at a 91 overall after that disappointing season for the Bruins. It definitely hurt that they lost some of their higher goal scorers, like that guy that scored 40, 50 goals. Attributes look the same as always. Nothing really changing. Same old consistent player through and through. So I think it really comes down to the Bruins, who have to be responsible to build build a better team around Cooley. I see that his discipline has grown to 85. That's very nice, but I don't think anything else is really changing. They know what they have in Cooley. Now they got to build a team around him so that they can hopefully get back to the postseason in year number 12. Year number 12, and Cooley is still centering the same line with Kemmel on his left and Chiodo on his right. That guy Beach, who scored 55 goals in 2031-32, is now back. So I guess last season, 32-33, must have been like a holdout or something. That is a huge boost for the Bruins, who now have him second line center. Chubarov, this guy 89 overall on his left. So hopefully this will mean a return to the postseason. The defense, it's tough, especially that third pair. And goaltending, still 279 overalls. But hopefully the Bruins' top six will carry them through. Cooley, coming off of another Selke Trophy win, is still at a 90 overall with the 5-star everything. Aside from the 4-star physical and 3.5-star shooting, still one of the best defensive forwards in the game with a great ability to score, so hopefully he can get back on that track after he had a lower scoring season last year. 2033-34, let's hit it. Somehow the Bruins finish in an even worse position than last year, as in year number 12 they finished 28th in the NHL, a record this year of 35, 41, and 6. Cooley, who's now at the age of 30, had the fourth 65-point season of his career, this year doing it in 80 games. He scored 21 goals and 44 assists. He was a plus player at a +7, so at least there's that. He scored 9 power play points and averaged almost 22.5 minutes of ice time per night. No Selke Trophy for him this year, but he does maintain his 91 overall status. All the attributes looking the same as always, as they have likely plateaued at this point, especially with no crazy seasons happening. He's been a consistent 60-70 point guy, but the Bruins don't seem to have much scoring, as yeah, Chiodo and Cooley can pass the puck a lot, but maybe only like Beach is the guy who can finish, as he had 36 goals. If he needs to score 50 or else they go down, that's not a good strategy. So hopefully some goal scoring can be added to the team here in Boston, headed into year number 13. Year number 13, and not much has changed in the Boston Bruins top six, as Kemmel is still on Cooley's left and Chiodo on his right. The defense changed over the offseason as Brandstrom left, so that leaves a big hole on the top pair. Goaltending wise, thankfully they have a real starter now, as 85 overall Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is here. Still a bit difficult defensively, but the offense should hopefully be able to carry a little bit, as the Bruins will want to make the postseason. And Cooley will not want to miss out on the postseason for a third consecutive season for the first time in his career. Still a 91 overall. Not really much else to say on the attributes, as I think they've been pretty stagnant for a good number of years now, but we good to always get a reminder of how good of a player he is. With lots of players like Barkov and O'Reilly out of the league now, I wonder if he'll start going on a Selke tear. He has 3 under his belt, and he wants to help carry the Bruins back to the postseason here in 2034-35. In year number 13, the Bruins improved, but only slightly, as they finished 25th in the NHL, a .500 record as they went 35, 35, and 12, thus making Logan Cooley miss the postseason for a third consecutive year, the first time in his career that has happened. Cooley had the lowest offensive output since his rookie season, scoring only 11 goals, a career low, and 47 assists for 58 points, playing all 82 games. Those 58 points breaking a 9-year streak of Cooley scoring 65 points or more. He was -2, had 80 penalty minutes, getting a bit cranky in his older age perhaps, 17 power play points, and averaged over 22 minutes of ice time a night once again. Despite all of that, Cooley won the 4th Selke Trophy of his career, tying him with Bob Gainey for second most all-time, now just one behind Patrice Bergeron. It's his second in 3 years and second as a Bruin. So if you ask me, I think this falls on Bruins management, because Cooley, in the 3 years that the Bruins have missed the postseason, has 2 Selkes to show for it. He has been doing his job. So now headed into the 6th year of this 7-year contract and his 12th NHL season overall, Cooley will definitely be thinking about what's going on here in Boston. I hope the management can really take advantage of these prime Selke years. He is still a 91 overall headed into the 2035 offseason. Not much to say about the attributes, so let's see what the offseason has in store headed into 2035-36. Year number 14 and the top 6 in Boston remains unchanged. Kemmel and Chiodo playing with Logan Cooley on that top line. Defense has improved slightly, and the goaltending now, there's an 84 and an 82 in there, so fingers crossed for the Bruins this season. Cooley a 91 overall as always, coming off of his 4th Selke trophy, but the worst offensive output of his career since his rookie season, and the lowest goal scoring season of his career by quite a bit with only 11. Hopefully he can bounce back in a big way this season and get the Bruins back in the postseason, as it's been 3 consecutive years of no postseason action. With just this year and next year left on Cooley's contract in Boston, you really got to hope for some success soon. In year number 14, the Boston Bruins returned to the postseason as they won the Atlantic Division and placed 7th in the NHL with a great record of 45, 29, and 8. Logan Cooley was back to his scoring ways as well, as he played in all 82 games and registered 23 goals and 57 assists for 80 points, his first 80-point season with the Bruins and his first since year number 7 back with the Coyotes in 2028-29. He was a plus 15 along the way as well, had 12 power play points, all while registering over 22 minutes of ice time per night. In the postseason, the Bruins took down the Islanders in 7 games of round number 1, but dropped in 5 to the Senators in round number 2, who would go on to lose in 7 to, of course, the Arizona Coyotes for the 2036 Stanley Cup Championship. Cooley's team that drafted him goes on to win the Cup here in 2036. Who knows how things would have gone if Cooley had stayed on the Coyotes, but we will never know. In the postseason, Cooley had an interesting stat line, only 1 goal and 5 assists for 6 points across 11 games. Not horrible, but not what you'd really expect from him. He was also averaging almost 22 minutes of ice time per night. No Selke this season either for Cooley, but with that great performance in the regular season, he grows back to a 92 overall. Physical still at 4 stars, aggressiveness up to 93. His puck skills all went up by 1. I think there's some other, maybe some shooting categories went up. His power went up by 1 each there. But now at the age of 32 and headed into the final year of that huge contract that he signed with the Bruins, I will once again be very curious to see where Cooley brings his talents, whether or not he re-signs with the Bruins after finally making it back to the postseason. But it may just be that the 2036-37 season will be what decides it. Now this is interesting. Headed into year number 15, Cooley's 13th in the NHL. He is centering the top line with Beach on his left and Chiodo on his right. Beach is the guy who scores 30, 40, 50 goals. He has the 5-star shooting. So with a setup man like Cooley, this could be electric. Cooley is a 92 overall. Boston has David Jiricek and this guy Traverse here. Okay, so great defensive core for the first time in a while in Boston. Goaltending still leaves a little bit to be desired, but after making the postseason last year, hopefully the Bruins will return once again. Danny Heatley Jr., Damon Heatley on the team. That's always fun. And Darren McCarthy Jr. is here too. Hey, it's actually his name too, Darren McCarthy. Hey. All right, great stuff here in Boston. Logan Cooley, 92 overall with the 4-star physical, 3.5 shooting, and 5-star everything else. Puck skills all 92 to 93. He is a great skater, very strong offensive and defensively. Let's see what his potential final season in Boston will look like. It was another impressive season in year number 15 for the Bruins as they finished 9th in the NHL this year with a record of 47, 31, and 4. Cooley had a very strong playmaking season as he once again played in all 82 games, this year scoring 19 goals and 54 assists for a 73-point campaign. He was a +3 along the way and scored 18 power play points, all while averaging just over 22 minutes of ice time per night, a number that he seems to repeat quite often. Unfortunately, in the postseason, the Bruins were swept out of the first round by the Buffalo Sabres, who would go on to lose in the Eastern Conference Final to the Capitals, who lost in the Stanley Cup Final to the Seattle Kraken. In that 4-game sweep, Logan Cooley ended as a plus player with a +2, and he registered a goal and 2 assists for 3 points along the way, all while logging over 23 minutes of ice time per night. 7 years and $101 million later, Logan Cooley has a couple more Selke trophies, a couple Stanley Cup Final appearances, 4 playoff appearances, but still no ring on his finger. Headed to unrestricted free agency in the 2037 offseason. We are all extremely curious to find out whether or not he will re-sign in Boston or look to jump ship before he gets into retirement range. Speaking of that, he's now at 33 years of age and regresses to an 88 overall, now listed as a second-line forward, so he likely isn't going somewhere to be a number 1 centerman, maybe number 2, depends if he can bounce back over the offseason. His puck skills are still pretty high, but his defensive awareness drops to 92. His defensive attributes attributes drop a little bit. His physical now down to 3.5 stars, senses at 4.5 stars. So a team in free agency could get a good discount on Cooley if he can bounce back over the offseason, but all of that is yet to be seen. So let's get into year number 16. In year number 16, Logan Cooley is headed back out west as he signs with the Edmonton Oilers in unrestricted free agency. He signs a 3-year contract that pays him very similar AAV to what he had in Boston, $14.14 million per year, paying him close to $42.5 million for 3 seasons. At the age of 33 at 88 overall, it made a lot of sense for both teams, I guess, and he gets to maintain his first-line center status. On his left, he has his old friend Joey Bell from the Coyotes. He is a power forward with 5-star shooting on his left, and on his right, he has Randy Von Fersen, a 5-star shooting sniper. So this could be an explosive season for Logan Cooley. He also has his old buddy Brad Lambert from the Coyotes days as second-line center, so a little bit of an Arizona reunion here at Edmonton in 2037. The defense is not too great, and the goaltending isn't too solid either, but perhaps the goal scoring will be enough to carry Edmonton through. They did win a Stanley Cup back in year number 10, correct, when they beat the Bruins, so Cooley knows a little bit about Edmonton, but no more McDavid, no more Draisaitl. He is now the number 1 centerman. He's committed to Oil Country for 3 years, so let's see how it goes in his first season with the Oilers and his 14th season in the NHL overall. Unfortunately, in year number 16, the Oilers were one of the last Western Conference teams on the outside looking in. They finished 18th place in the NHL with a record of 40, 34, and 8. However, as predicted, it was a great playmaking season from Logan Cooley, who played in all 82 games and scored 83 points, 22 goals, and 61 assists. His first point-per-game plus season since 2030, and his first point-per-game plus season when playing in all 82 games since 2029. Joey Bell on his left had 47 goals. Von Fersen on his right had 27. Hopefully he can continue to grow a little bit more. He was a +9 and registered 13 power play points, while once again registering about 22 minutes and, between like 9 and 13 seconds of ice time per night. Really known for that solid 22 minutes per game. No awards for Cooley this season, but after a great season, he grows to an 89 overall and is now listed as a first-line forward, so great to see that. Back to 5-star puck skills, defense, senses, and skating. Still 3.5 shooting. Physical now down to 3.5. The aggressiveness going away a little bit. The strength, the body checking, understandable as he is now 34 years of age. But he has 2 more years here in Edmonton, and coming off of a point-per-game plus season, we're hoping for more of the same in year number 17. Year number 17, Logan Cooley's second in Edmonton, and he is still centering the top line with Joey Bell on his left and Van Fersen on his right, who has now grown to an 87 overall, still with the 5-star shooting. That's great. Coming off of a point-per-game plus season, hopefully Cooley can do that again with the same line mates. He is now an 87 overall, back to being listed as a second-line forward, but as we saw last season, that doesn't necessarily mean much. The senses are back to 4.5 stars, but puck skills, defense, and skating are all still 5 stars, despite Cooley being much closer to the end of his career than the start of his career. But with still a lot of talent left in the tank, let's see if Logan Cooley can help get the Edmonton Oilers to the postseason in 2038-39. Congratulations to the Edmonton Oilers in year number 17, as they are the worst team in the NHL, finishing 32nd with a record of 30 wins, 48 losses, and 4 overtime or shootout losses. Once again, despite missing the postseason, Logan Cooley had a solid campaign, playing in all 82 games and scoring 17 goals and 59 assists for 76 points. He was a -8 along the way with 15 power play points, and this year had a little bit more ice time than usual as he was just under 23 minutes per night. Not a ton of scoring. I'm going to assume some atrocious goaltending here, like a really bad backup starter who just, I guess, wasn't good enough. I don't know. Things did not go well for the Oilers here in year number 17, and headed into the final year of the 3-year contract that Cooley signed with the Oilers. He has a couple of solid campaigns, but no playoff experience to show for it. He is 35 years of age and maintains his 87 overall status, still 5-star puck skills, defense, and skating, 3-star physical now, as that is officially now his lowest category of attributes. Let's hope for better things headed into 2039-40. Year number 18, the final of the 3-year contract that Cooley signed in Edmonton. He is now an 86 overall, but still centering the top line with Joey Bell on his left and Van Fersen on his right. The forward core as a whole has improved a little bit here in Edmonton. Defense, yeah, still tough. Only an 84 is the highest rated, and an 85 overall starter. Zhao is still the guy there. So, as an 86 overall, he no longer has any 5-star attributes aside from his skating. 91 acceleration, 90 speed, he's still got it in his older age. Everything else between 3 and 4.5 stars. Puck skills all now between 89 and 91. 82 shot blocking, 87 stick checking. The defensive attributes have dropped, but still great defensive awareness. Offensive awareness at 89. He's got it. He can do it. The only thing is that he now has top 9 potential, which means unless he has a really solid season, he will likely continue to drop in overall. But he's coming off of 2 strong offensive seasons with the Oilers. Just no postseason berth to show for it. So hopefully in this 3rd year with the Oilers, we'll be able to get some postseason action. I guess you could call it improvement in year number 18, as the Oilers didn't finish last, but they did finish 25th in the NHL with a record of 34, 40, and 8, thus making it 3 consecutive seasons that Cooley misses out on the postseason for just the 2nd time in his career. An interesting season here from Logan Cooley, as the trend continues that, he's pretty solid offensively, but 7 goals is by far the lowest that he's ever scored in a single season, as well as an 82-game season, that's for sure. 60 assists is among one of the best of his career, but an odd season to say the least. 7 goals, 60 assists, 67 points. He's been an Iron Man out here, as it's now 6 consecutive seasons of playing all 82 games. Good for him. He is a -16 on the season in the end, registers 12 power play points, and averages just 9 seconds shy of 23 minutes of ice time per night. Logan Cooley at the age of 36 now drops to an 85 overall with that top 9 potential and finishes his contract with the Oilers as so. He is still a very serviceable player despite the attributes continuing to drop. He does not have 5-star anything anymore, as even his skating is now at 4.5. Nonetheless, he could be a help to any team looking for a Stanley Cup, and he definitely wants one as he's headed into the twilight of his career. So we'll see if Edmonton can get him re-signed, or if he will once again hit the free agent market in the 2040 offseason. In year number 19, Logan Cooley has headed back east and signed a 1-year contract with the New York Islanders, paying him $7.22 million per season. He will take a second-line role with the Islanders, with this guy Radek Hemsky on his left, a 2-way forward, 88 overall, and Philippe Richard on his right, a sniper with 4.5-star shooting, 99 shooting power for both slap and wrist shot. The top 6 and the forward core as a whole on the Islanders is much more impressive than what the Oilers had, I believe. The defense is also more serviceable. David Jiricek, another 2022 draftee, is here, and the goaltending there's an 83 overall starter. Not great, but not horrible either, and I could see the Islanders hopefully making the postseason. Cooley is now an 84 overall with bottom 6 potential, so once again, he has to have a good season or he will continue to regress in overall. The physical has really taken a hit, now at 2.5 stars, 84 aggressiveness, and 80 strength. Not what he once was at all, but still 4.5-star puck skills, 4-star defense, 4-star skating. The things that he was best at doing are still intact. So let's hope for the best in 2040-41, as Cooley is getting close to the end of his career and really wants that cup. Year number 19 was tough, as the Islanders were just on the outside looking in, with Buffalo fighting for that last spot that Columbus ended up getting. A record of 41, 34, and 7 was unfortunately not enough to make the postseason, and Cooley misses the playoffs for the 4th consecutive year for the first time in his career. Points-wise, it was a tough year for Logan Cooley, as he played in 80 out of 82 games and scored 47 points, matching his career low back in his rookie season. 19 goals and 28 assists, while also being a -13. Throw in 8 power play points. By the way, 7 game-winning goals. I believe that's easily a career high. And he was averaging just under 18 minutes of ice time per night. He, oh my goodness, drops to a 77 overall and is now listed as a depth forward, coming off of the final year of his contract just being a 1-year deal. After he made over $7 million, I don't think he'd even get a league minimum contract at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if retirement is also in the cards. He still has 4-star skating, but oh wow, 2.5-star puck skills. Those took a huge hit this season. Defense at 3 stars, senses at 3 stars, shooting at 3 stars, and physical down at 2 stars. That was a really brutal year for Cooley. Even in a year they almost made the postseason, postseason, a 40-plus win season. I guess sometimes just when the body says no, the body says no. But still 77 overall. He could crack a fourth line somewhere. I'm not sure. We'll see what the 2041 offseason has in store. It does not get better than this, as in year number 20, Logan Cooley does not retire and signs with his hometown team, the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is the best case scenario. I was really hoping this would happen. And of all the 32 teams to sign with, Cooley signs a contract with the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's a 2-year deal that actually pays him $3.55 million per season, a total of $7.1 million. I'm not sure he'll play both seasons, but maybe with a good year, he can increase from the 77 overall he's at. He does have AHL top 6 potential, so that doesn't help. He's playing second line wing at the moment, which is kind of surprising, but again, the AI doesn't necessarily go by overall and age and all that. They go by performance. So you know what? I was a bit premature in saying that I didn't think he'd at least get a league minimum contract. Here he is at a 77 overall, still with 4-star skating, 3-star defense, 3-star shooting. He's got the wrist shot. He can still do it. He's a serviceable player here in the NHL, but a top 6 role for him, I'm not too sure about that. Nonetheless, he's on his hometown team. He's getting paid, and hopefully the Penguins can pull it off before he retires. Defense in Pittsburgh is okay, definitely serviceable, and the goaltending, an 85 overall starter, so okay, all right. I don't know if this team is quite Stanley Cup or bust, but Cooley is trying his best to get a ring before he calls it a career. So 2041-42, let's do it. In year number 20, Logan Cooley returns to the postseason with his childhood team, the Pittsburgh Penguins, as the Pens finished 8th in the NHL. Very surprising with that lineup, I might say. 102 points on the year with a record of 46, 26, and 10. Unfortunately, I have to go the long way around to see Cooley's numbers, as after every season, if the player is too low of an overall, they get sent down, and because they didn't play in the minors, their stats don't show up. So all that being said, Cooley did play in 80 out of 82 games and scored 12 goals and 33 assists for a 45-point season. Yes, the lowest statistical season of his career, but hey, at 77 overall, I am pretty impressed with 45 points. He was also a plus 17 along the way, the lowest amount of penalty minutes he's ever taken with only 13, and he threw in even 4 power play points along the way, while still averaging over 19 minutes of ice time per night. After missing the playoffs for 4 consecutive years, it was great to see Cooley back in the postseason. Cooley and the Penguins took down the Devils in 5 games in round number 1, but unfortunately got swept out of round number 2 by the Flyers, who went on to lose to the Red Wings, who lost to the Blackhawks for the 2042 Cup. Cooley turned back the clock and was a man possessed in that postseason. He was desperate for that cup as he registered 2 goals and 8 assists for 10 points in 9 games. Enough to lead his team in points, but it unfortunately wasn't enough to get the Penguins past the second round. He was also a +1 with 3 power play points along the way, while registering about 20 minutes of ice time per night. At 38 years of age and 77 overall, I can't believe he was able to do that, but he did. 1.5 star of physicality, 2.5 star puck skills, 3-star shooting, 3-star senses, 3-star defense. Still the 4-star skating at the time of retirement. Reminds me of a young Andrew Cogliano, perhaps. 91 face-off, still elite in that regard, but obviously and understandably everything else deteriorating over time. Cooley is signed on for 1 more season, but at the age of 38 and at 77 overall, I wouldn't be surprised if he calls it a career in the 2042 off-season. If he does, it was a great story to be able to come home and play with the Pittsburgh Penguins and even make the playoffs with them. And in the 2042 offseason, Logan Cooley does indeed call it a career, retiring with his boyhood team, the Pittsburgh Penguins, playing 1,443 games in the NHL, scoring 1,223 points across those games. Let's get into the numbers now that Logan Cooley has retired at the age of 38 after 18 seasons in the NHL. He played 6 years in Arizona, 7 years in Boston, 3 years in Edmonton, and then 1 with the Islanders and 1 with the Penguins to give himself 347 goals and 876 assists. He ends as a +10. He had a lot of ups and downs in the plus minuses, never higher than +23, never lower than -24, always around that range. He ends with over 1,000 penalty minutes as well at 1,025. He was usually around that 60, 70 penalty minute range. So you know what, despite his discipline going as high as I think 88, he was known for a penalty or two. Now this puts Cooley in an elite group of players who have over 1,000 points and over 1,000 penalty minutes. I believe only about 30 players have done that, but with his 1,223 points, he is ranked 13th all-time for players who have that to their name, just below Al MacInnis and just above Jean Béliveau. But if you sorted by penalty minutes, since he just squeaked in, he'd be at the bottom of that list. He ended his career with over 3,000 shots on net with a 10.9 shooting percentage. 51 of his 347 goals were game winners. 47 of them were on the power play. 233 of his 1,223 points were on the power play, so close to 1,000 even strength points. 16 shorthanded goals, 41 shorthanded points. He averaged just 6 seconds under 22 minutes of ice time per night. You know, for a guy who won 4 Selkies, you would have thought that he would have had some seasons of like 24, 25, 26 minutes. No, never more than 23 and a half, never less than, 18. He was always in that range. He ended up with over 31,600 minutes on the ice. He took a lot of face-offs, over 40,600, and he won over 22,700 of them to give him a career percentage of 55.95. For players who have taken at least 1,000 face-offs, which he has with over 40,600, the 55.95% would put him 27th all-time in NHL history, under Jim Slater and above Ryan O'Reilly. His best season on the dot, by the way, the year that he played with the Penguins, where he was 59.57%, although he only took 700 faceoffs that year as opposed to the usual 2,000 plus. Cooley also threw his weight around quite a bit as a guy who's 5'10 to 6 foot, almost 3,000 hits. He had as many as 218 hits one season, good for 150, 170 plus. He didn't block too many shots with only 352 in his career. 889 giveaways, but 1,723 takeaways, more than making up for them, and a big reason why he won 4 Selke trophies. In the postseason, Logan Cooley didn't have a ton of experience as he only ended up playing 91 postseason games in his career. He had 2 Stanley Cup final appearances with the Boston Bruins, but unfortunately no Stanley Cup rings to show for his career. 21 goals, 54 assists, and 75 points in those 91 games. Ended as a -3 with 57 penalty minutes. He was shooting 9.8%. He had 6 game-winning goals and 17 power play points. In the postseason, he would average 22.5 minutes of ice time per night. And when it came to faceoffs, he was 54.64% in the postseason. 168 hits, 25 blocks, 51 giveaways, and 108 takeaways. Back to the goals and assists, he was never known to be much of a goal scorer, as he was usually good enough for 20, but never scored more than 26 goals in an NHL season. Assists, however, he was known to get 50 plus, his best being 63 with the Coyotes. He had 2 60-plus seasons with Arizona, 61 and 63. Points-wise, never crazy either. He was usually known for the 60 to 70-plus range, but he did have 3 seasons of point per game or more. One of those with the Oilers and 2 of them with the Coyotes. When playing a full 82 games, he did have 1 other point per game season when he scored 65 and 65 with the Coyotes. And of course, the world would look very different in 2042 with many other players coming through the ranks of the NHL. But if he were to retire today, Logan Cooley's 1,443 games would put him 30th all-time behind Tim Horton and ahead of Mike Gartner. His 347 goals would put him 160th all-time behind Andy Bathgate and ahead of Charlie Simmer. His 876 assists would put him 24th all-time behind Nicholas Lidstrom and ahead of Phil Esposito. And his 1,223 points would put him 43rd all-time behind Norm Ullman and ahead of Jean Béliveau. He also retires with no franchise records, likely because he never really stayed anywhere long enough, but no franchise, single season, single game, or rookie records with any of the teams that he played with. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the career of Logan Cooley. Unfortunately, didn't spend a ton of time with the Arizona Coyotes. 2 years in their system, followed by 6 years in the NHL before he moved on to a big free agent contract with the Boston Bruins. He finished his career with his hometown Pittsburgh Penguins, so that was a great wrap-up. Unfortunately, no Stanley Cups, but 4 Selke trophies to tie him with Bob Gainey and presumably Ryan O'Reilly with the second most all-time, just 1 behind Patrice Bergeron. He made a lot of money money along the way, had a very good 82 game average, was a consistent player when it came to what he would get done in the goals and the time on ice, most notably, I think. He had a few explosive seasons of 80 plus points, but was really a strong two-way monster out there. Not always a plus player, but great on those takeaways. The saddest part, I think, was no Stanley Cup for Logan Cooley. He got close a couple times, but never more than Game 6 of the Cup final. I'd be very curious to see an actual simulation with the Coyotes in NHL 23, for example, when you put Connor Geekie and the rest of the prospects in the system, and Logan Cooley probably makes the NHL in 2023 as opposed to 2024. But of course, these are all things that we can't control in the simulation. So I hope that you enjoyed it. It's just a little bit of fun here in the offseason to see what, and a little bit of an idea of these prospects, how they might do. I definitely had a blast, and I hope that you did as well. So if you did, be sure to leave a like and leave a comment with your thoughts on this. As I mentioned, these are really fun to make, but they do take a lot of time. So if you enjoyed it, consider subscribing, as you'll be able to watch many more of them, including the ones that have already been posted, Slavkovsky, Wright, Nemec, etc., along with being made aware of our future uploads, which always include our NHL 22 franchise mode, and there'll be the Show 22 franchise mode, and much, much more. So if you enjoyed this, take a look around the channel. I'm sure you'd enjoy that as well. And we would be that much stronger of a community with you joining in. So it would be our pleasure to have you. Arizona fans, I'm sorry that it didn't work out too well. You did win a Stanley Cup in the simulation, so at least there's that, as Brad Lambert ended up being a bit more of the savior than Logan Cooley. But wishing Cooley all the best in the real world. He may end up being one of the best, if not the best, prospects out of his 2022 class. Looking forward to seeing great things from the two-way monster, and I'm sure you are as well. So once again, thank you so very much for taking the time to watch, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the next one.